to the entertainer talking sports.
What is going on, football fans? Back at it with another New York Giants video. And in this video, of course, I'm going to talk about the legend, Eli Manning, number 10. And there was a lot of great quotes that came out of today's press conference. I'm going to break them all down. But one thing I'm going to say, regardless of how you felt about Eli Manning, whether you were a fan that never really appreciated him, you didn't think he was a good quarterback, you thought he was overrated, you think it's a joke that he's mentioned in the Hall of Fame, or whether you're a fan like myself who thinks it's a joke that people even insinuate that he shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame, and you love him and he was your favorite player. Regardless, we're all New York Giants fans, and I hope all Giants fans that watched that press conference today saw how much that guy loved being a New York Giant. I hope all Giants fans who watched that press conference today saw how much he meant to that franchise, to the state of New York, to all New York Giants fans. And I hope all New York Giants fans watched that press conference today and realized the type of person that Eli Manning was and why I have such an admiration for him. Obviously, you saw clips of him working with all the troubled children. Now, you know, I said in my last video, athletes are not supposed to be role models. But this is a great human being. He's a good person. And he was a great New York Giant and a great leader, even though he may not have, expressed it. And he, like he said in the video, in the press conference rather, was more proud to be a New York Giant than anyone that ever wore that uniform. And he expressed it throughout the entire press conference when talking about not just the players, not just the coaches, talking about the people who worked in the cafeteria, the people who worked, cleaning his uniform. He really appreciated everyone that was associated with the New York Giants, the fans, and everyone down to the janitor. When it came to the New York Giants, man, hearing that man makes me love him that much more. It really does, man. His love and joy of the New York Giants franchise, man. I don't know how you don't watch that and appreciate what he meant to this franchise as a leader. I just don't. Now, some people are different, but I really enjoyed watching it. I was sad. I teared up at a couple of points in the video, and I'll talk about it when I pull up the quotes. But Eli's my guy, man, and I always try to be professional on this channel. But sometimes when you talk about certain things like this, you can't help but be a little biased, I guess. He was my guy. He's a New York Giant. To me, he represents everything that a New York Giant should be. And obviously Daniel Jones, I think, shares some of his characteristics and hopefully can bring me the same memories that Eli Manning did. But it's not going to be easy. And he's going to have to do it his way. Just like Eli Manning, like he said, had to do it his. And if there's one lesson that I got from Eli Manning over his time with the New York Giants in life, it's exactly that. Be yourself. And that's what he is. He was always himself. He knew, coming from Ole Miss and Louisiana, that he didn't fit in New York. He's not a traditional New Yorker, right? He's not this, he's a guy from the South coming to New York. It's completely different there. And he fit in, and he was himself, and we admired him for it, and we embraced him. And I think that was one of the best characteristics about Eli Manning. He didn't try to be something that he wasn't. And, that's one of the things I admired most about the guy and how hard of a worker he was. He went over, how hard he worked in practice. And, he talked about how he's going to miss OTAs. He talked about how his favorite place in the stadium was the tunnel. And the last start that he made, it was a great moment that he was able to celebrate with his family in the tunnel after a win. And I was glad to hear him, that he was happy, his last game with the New York Giants. He also, another thing I always say about Eli Manning, that guy was always positive. Always positive. And he never let anything get to him, regardless of how much he was bashed by the fans or the media or outside fans. Never let anything get to him. And he said that as well in one of his quotes. I'm going to pull up the exact quote, but, basically saying that, he's always going to remember the good times. He's not going to let the bad times ruin, his time as a football player in the NFL. And you could really tell that he appreciated every second that he wore the New York Giants uniform. And he's a special player, man. And it's why all those former players were there. I saw Michael Strahan in the background. Hakeem Nicks was there. David Deal was there. I think Herslick was there. There was a nut. Daniel Jones was there. Sterling Shepard was there. Evan Ingram was there. There was a number of former players that were there that went up on the stage at the end. And Mara said some great things about Eli Manning as well. And I'll start with the quotes, and I'll start with what Mara had to say about Eli Manning, the two-time Super Bowl champion. First thing he said was, I'm going to retire his number, and I'll pull up the exact quote, but I just wanted to show you guys all the retired New York Giants. There's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 retired numbers in the history of the New York Giants. And there has not been a retired number since Lawrence Taylor and Phil Simms all the way back in 1993 when they retired. So this guy's a special guy, member of the New York Giants. And he's going to go into the Ring of Honor regardless if he, goes into the Hall of Fame or not. And I think he will, and he should. But, yeah, that's the first thing Mara said, and this is what he said at first. He said, John Mara, in introducing Eli Manning, he said, Eli has been as fine of a representative of this franchise as we have ever seen. And I agree with him. I can't imagine anybody representing an organization better than the way that Eli Manning did. You look at a lot of these other quarterbacks, Ben Roethlisberger, obviously with the rape allegations, and I'm not going to pick at other quarterbacks, but this guy never pointed the finger at anybody, and he was always so proud to wear this Giants uniform, and he represented it with class, man. That's another word that you could use to describe Eli Manning, just how classy he was. Next quote that John Mara said, we would be honored to induct Eli Manning into the Giants Ring of Honor. They said they were going to do it next year, and no Giant will ever wear number 10 again. And as soon as he said that, I started to break down. Just thinking, my from the age of 18 till now, man, just thinking about all the great memories that he provided me as a New York Giant fan. And then, we'll get into some of Eli's quotes. Eli Manning, I choose to leave this game with only positive memories. If there are going to be endless echoes, choose the good ones. And I think that's a great quote to live by. And it's nice to hear him say that, that he said, he's basically acknowledging he knows the last 3-4 years have been rocky, and it may not have, been the ideal finish to a career, but when he looks back on his career, and I think when New York Giants fans look back on Eli Manning's career, and football fans look back on Eli Manning's career, they should remember the good times, what he meant to this team, and what he meant to this organization. And, the guy was a part of 2 Super Bowls. And, I'm proud to say that I got to watch it. Next thing he said, Eli Manning, when you win championships, you have a special connection with teammates. Many of my teammates have become friends that will last a lifetime. And obviously a lot of those friends were there today. All the guys up on the stage, man. Yeah, and he just talked about, another thing he talked about was somebody asked him about, the Iron Man streak and what that meant to him. And he said, listen, I looked around at all my teammates and I saw all the hard work they were putting in, playing with, bruised ribs or whatever else. And I always felt like I had to, no matter what, go out there and play on Sunday. And that's one thing that I think is incredibly underrated about Eli Manning, his toughness. This guy played with plantar fasciitis, I think in 2009. Guy got beat like a rag doll against the San Francisco 49ers in that NFC title game. Everybody talks about the defense. Defense didn't have to take 30 hits to the ribs. And he stood tall, never threw a pick, never complained. Obviously, the famous picture of his shoulder pad hanging out with grass in his helmet and everything else. The guy just had a special connection to the players, as well as everybody else in the organization, what I said earlier. Here's the next quote. Eli Manning, no one loved and appreciated wearing the Giants uniform more than I have. And I agree with that. I can't imagine anyone that was more proud to wear this uniform, and anyone that I will ever be more proud of that wore this New York Giants uniform. Like I said, I didn't see Lawrence Taylor in his prime. I saw him at the tail end of his career. But it's going to be tough for anybody to top Eli in terms of being a Giant, in my opinion. Next quote. Eli Manning to the Giants fans. You are definitely unique, but I love you for that. I walk away as a New Yorker. And he came here, being a guy from the South, and, he's leaving here as a New Yorker because he embraced us and we embraced him because we both had a common goal and a common love for the New York Giants. And like I said, Eli said he's going to stay in New York and he's going to contemplate potentially coaching. Then he went on to say, Wellington Mara used to say, once a Giant, always a Giant. For me, it's only a Giant. I freaking love this guy. Man. I can't help it. I love this guy, man. And I love that quote. That quote will probably be on his bus at the Hall of Fame, and that's great, man. It's great reading that, hearing that, and it's true. He went out only a Giant. He wasn't going to go play with the Miami Dolphins or another organization. He wanted to start his career and end his career with the same team. And this is another thing. Eli Manning on his potential successor. Daniel Jones loves the game of football. He's passionate, and I think he's got a bright future ahead of him. And that's another thing that Eli Manning handled with class, being benched after just 2 games. Even though, some may argue he shouldn't have been brought back, he was, and that's not his fault. And, he was benched after 2 games. He handled it with class. He took Daniel Jones under his wing. And I'm sure if he comes back as a coach, he's going to have a lot to do with trying to get the most out of Daniel Jones and get the Giants a couple more Super Bowl rings. And then finally, the last thing I just wanted to pull up to you guys, man. Eli Manning on being clutch. And this is why they call him Easy. I was never scared to make a mistake. I only think about how awesome it's going to be when we score. And I think a lot of quarterbacks, in some of the situations he was in those Super Bowls, probably would have been scared to make a mistake or been thinking about, what shouldn't I do on this play? And that's what made him special, and that's what made him thrive, in my opinion, when it mattered most. Not just the quarterback. In situations like the game-winning drive, when he threw it to Manningham and everything else, all the other players around the field are thinking not to screw up in the big spot. A perfect example, Eli Manning, they had a chance to win the game, the Patriots. Asante Samuel had the ball in his mitts. Threw a pick, obviously, when Eli Manning, he threw a bad pass there on that last drive, but Eli Manning overcame it, got out of the grasp of the sack, threw the ball to Tyree, and then hit Plaxico Burress in the end zone, and then obviously the other drive was flawless, where he hit Manningham down the sideline. But, it wasn't just those moments. I talked about it in my last video. If you haven't watched it, go back and watch it, because I think a lot of people forget about the drive before halftime against the Dallas Cowboys. Had it on his own 28-yard line. They trailed 14-7. With 46 seconds till halftime, he took them down the field 72 yards in 42 seconds, 7 plays. And people often forget about that drive. And there's many other drives. But that's obviously one that sticks out to me. The Hail Mary against the Packers in the playoffs. Yeah, man. I love him. I'm gonna miss him. But obviously us New York Giants fans will never forget him, and we'll remember everything that he meant to us, and he meant to this fan base. And I'm looking forward to next year, when I attend the New York Giants game, looking up at the Ring of Honor and seeing number 10 in it. Because he deserves it, man. And, hopefully one day I get to live stream going to his Hall of Fame induction ceremony, because if he is inducted, I will be there. And if I'm still on YouTube, I will be streaming it. But, Eli, we love you, man. And we're glad that you were yourself, and you never tried to be something that you weren't. Because that's what made you special, man. That's what made you a New York Giant. As always, guys, if you liked what you watched, please subscribe. Drop a comment. Maybe give me a little thumbs up. Cheers.